here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, it's been a while since I made a video on how I do my herbal soaps, and these are the ones that I actually sell or give as gifts. And I needed to make another batch of my peppermint tea, and this time I'm going to use oatmeal in it because I've had some requests for oatmeal soap. Now, I've already made a couple of batches of oatmeal soap using different blends, but the peppermint tea is one of my most popular blends that I make. So I'm going to show you how I do that, and I'll go over some of the ingredients in my tea blend, and we'll get started. To make soap, you only need 3 ingredients: water, lye, and some sort of fat. Now, this recipe is my own recipe that I came up with the right size and right measurements to be able to fill one of these, so I could get 6 nice fat bars, because I like to pile it up, and then have a little bit extra to fill some candy molds to just have some little soap samples. And so as long as you know what your ratios are, you can add or subtract to make the right size that you want. Now, if I'm going to fill this thing, which I don't do very often, I double the recipe that I'm going to show you, and that fills it up pretty good to the top, and I usually have extra. And so I got all these soap molds from Amazon, and I will link to them below. I do have a video on how I make the lard soap using this, and you can find that one right up here. I like the lard soap for the purpose of using it as a hand soap and a laundry soap, because I do find it cleans a little bit better, it suds better than the coconut oil. But for using on your skin or using like to make my shampoo, I prefer to use the coconut oil soap that I'll be making today. But the lard soap just does make a real nice, just real good solid bar, nice pure white, and it dries faster, sets up harder, so it also lasts longer. That's another reason why I like the lard soap. But for those who are vegan, this recipe here will be a good one for you to use. And there's many other things you can do with it. You can add shea butter, you can use a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil or grapeseed oil, whatever oil you want. But I find the easiest way is just to use coconut oil, and it just makes a really good bar of soap. Okay, to start with, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good scale for measuring, and typically I don't like digital stuff, but for this particular thing I found having a digital scale was very, very handy. I got this one on Amazon, and I will link to it below, as well as all my soap molds that I use, and also to my lye that I use. I will link to that below. So when I put this on, I put my measuring cup on the scale first, and then I turn it on. Then it will calibrate to what's already on here, and I should have zeros on here, which I don't know if you can see that from the angle, but right now it's all zeroed out. And what I need is 8.5 ounces of water, and I'm using my rainwater for this, my filtered rainwater. It's important with soap making that you get your measurements as exact as possible. So 8.5 ounces. So just a ½ ounce over a cup. Okay? That's actually 8.54, but that's good. Just a slight variance isn't going to be a huge deal. At least I've never had issues with it. So I'm going to take the water and I'm going to put it in this big batter bowl, or this is an 8-cup measuring cup if you want to call it that, and I'm going to set that aside. You can see I have a glass thermometer in here already. That is for when I add the lye, which is going to be very shortly. So notice I'm wearing rubber gloves, and now I'm going to put on my eyewear, my protective eyewear, and because I'm getting ready to deal with the lye. So I will also link to these below. I also got these on Amazon, and I think I got these extra small because I can't find them in kitchen gloves, latex gloves or surgical gloves on Amazon as well. I wish they made the kitchen gloves in extra small, because I prefer those better for doing stuff like this, because they're easier to get on and off. However, these ones fit me and give me better control. So it's best before you even open the dry lye that you have your rubber gloves on and protective wear. Notice I'm wearing long sleeves. So what I need of my lye, whoop, I need to recalibrate, excuse me, because I'm using a different measuring cup. So I gotta hit this button again to calibrate it so it zeroes out. And for this I need 3 ounces of crystal lye. You can also go down to your hardware store and get lye in the plumbing section. As long as it's 100% lye, it's all good. I use both. Okay, now another thing that you'll want to have on hand is you want to make sure you have plenty of water close by if you get lye on you to rinse it off real well, or even a spray bottle of vinegar. I've heard various schools of thought, but I do know that the vinegar, in my experience, does neutralize the burn of the lye. So if you have a spray bottle of vinegar, which this is actually a blend of my floral vinegar and white vinegar, you can spray that right on whatever area where the lye gets on there, and it'll neutralize the burn immediately. I had it happen and it works. So despite what some people say, just spraying that on did really good. So what I have going on over on my hot plate is I have 20 ounces of coconut oil melting, and it is all melted and it is ready. And I don't want it to get any more hot because it's already at 150 degrees. All right, so my fat is down below 150 degrees right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the lye into the water. Now this is very important. You do not add the water into the lye. You need to go lye into the water, because if you do it in the reverse fashion, you can have an explosive reaction, and that could be quite dangerous and you will get burned. So I'm putting on my glasses again, my safety glasses, and on this part you definitely want to make sure you're in a well ventilated room. Or at least as you're mixing the lye in with the water, that you stand way back, because you don't want to be breathing in these fumes. They will burn your lungs and you'll know it, you'll feel it. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. And then using a stainless steel spoon, still standing way back, keeping my face from being over the bowl. I'm going to try to stir this in carefully, being careful not to splash it. But this again is also why we're wearing rubber gloves and long sleeves. I do have my back door open, so I've got some ventilation going on in here as well. You just want to stir it until it's, make sure it's not caking at the bottom, just to get it to dissolve real well. So it's at 150 and it's still climbing. Okay, now I need to let both the lye and the fat continue to cool down to about 120, 125 degrees till they're at least pretty close to being the same temperature. What you can do during this time, if you're going to be adding herbs or anything else, you can have these things ready to go. So I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup of my mixed tea blends in there. If I fill this up all the way, it's about a 1/2 cup. A 1/4 cup for the size that I'm making is going to be plenty. Now this blend in particular, this is the one I made last year. This year my blend is going to be different, and I do have a video that I'm going to be making on that, and it will be all totally homegrown herbs that I put in that blend. Now this is mostly homegrown herbs, so it's mostly my mints, predominantly peppermint, but also mojito mint and orange mint. Plus I've got marshmallow root that I bought from Mountain House or Mountain Rose Herbs. I haven't started collecting my own marshmallow root yet, because as I've said in previous videos, I'm still wanting to get a good established root before I start digging some up, which I may next year. This also has holy basil, which is not homegrown, and then some lemon balm, which is homegrown. I think the only 2 things in here not homegrown are the marshmallow root and the holy basil. Everything else came from my own garden. And some yarrow, and probably a couple other things. I can see a yarrow flower right there. Probably a couple other things I'm not remembering, but it's mostly mints. And I'm also going to be using some Now Foods peppermint oil, and I will link to this below. And Usually what I do is I just take the lid off and I have it ready. I have this ready to put in the soap. It's a really good idea before you start mixing your lye and your fat together that you have all your ingredients ready to go. And then for the oats, I don't know how other people do oatmeal soap. I've never watched videos or read about it. I just do it my own way. And that is, I put in just the raw oats, just like that. And I'm going to put in a 1/4 cup at least, maybe a little bit more. But this right here is a 1/4 cup. And so I'm going to have that ready to go. So I'll get to that in a bit. I got to wait for this stuff to cool down a little bit more. And then I'll come back when I'm ready to blend it all. All right, so my fat and my lye water mixture are both at 125 degrees. So I'm ready to blend them together. And yes, if you notice anything strange, I have turned my hoodie around backwards because I find I like this method best for covering my face. You can use a scarf. I do recommend you cover your face when you start to do this, especially when you go to add whatever ingredients you're going to add to your mixture. I'm going to pour the fat into the lye mixture. And now what I have here is my stick blender, and I have it, I will link to this below. I have another stick blender, that same brand, Cuisinart. This one is far better than the first one I bought. I highly recommend this one. So I'm going to stick this down in there, and I'm going to go ahead and take the hood and cover my face like this, because you only really need one hand to operate this. And I have it on high, and I'm just going to start blending. Mixture gets to a slight trace. It's kind of where it's a little bit thick, and you can actually, when you run your blender through here like this, you should be able to see a little bit of lines left behind. Then that is when you're going to want to add your other ingredients. So I'm going to pour in my peppermint tea blend, my oats, and my cap full of peppermint oil, and that should be plenty because peppermint's pretty strong. And then you're going to want to start blending again right away. Now this whole process takes anywhere from about 2 to 5 minutes, and it's just going to depend, but you'll know when it starts thickening up. And once you add your ingredients, it's going to thicken up even quicker, so you want to move fast. So as you can see, it's pretty thick. Now, when I'm making lard soap, I don't let it get this thick. I just pour it in there. I like it to be somewhat thick when I'm making the bars like this because I can kind of work with them and put little designs in them. Make them almost look like something good enough to eat. Typically, I'll get a little better than 6 bars. What I'm hoping for this time, instead of filling the candy molds, is seeing if I can get enough to make, with all the ingredients I added, I'm thinking I might get enough to make another whole bar of soap, and we'll see. It's just going to depend because I like to have a good thick, these are 4 ounce bars when filled to the top, but I like to add a little bit more and make them kind of tall, so my clients are getting a little more soap for a little more bang for their buck, especially with all the ingredients in there, because that does take up room and make less in there of the actual soap. But the herbal soaps are just really nice, especially if you got a lot of good stuff like calendula, things that are good for your skin. So with as tall as I'm going to make these, I'm thinking I don't have enough to make another whole bar. So I am going to go ahead and fill some candy molds. Now these are the only 2 candy molds I have. You can find all kinds. There's another one I want to get someday that has dinosaurs and lions and all kinds of cute stuff, and I'll buy those someday so I can make some cute little soaps out of those. And I will link to all of them below, including the one that I'm interested in purchasing down the road. So one thing you'll find with your herbal soaps, when you go to fill the candy molds that have lots of little details like these rosette ones, sometimes they don't always come out very neat because the herbs kind of cause a little bit more air pockets, making them, yeah, not look quite so neat. Whereas if you're just using a soap without any herbs in it and you can just pour it in there straight, you actually get really nice little sample size soaps. And then whatever flakes and small pieces I have left, I use those to add to my laundry soap. I have a jar where I put little soap pieces, and then I'll use that for making my laundry soap. And this to me just gives it a more handmade, you know, interesting look rather than just your solid sliced bar. A lot of people like to make their soap where they do it in the big thing and then they slice it. Right now I don't have a soap slicer, though Patrick is planning on making me one at some point. But either way, this is really my favorite way because to me this is it's just more handmade and more unique to me, to who I am. I don't use any artificial dyes or scents in my soaps. Everything is all natural. So what you want to do is you want to let your soap sit in the mold for about 24 hours, and then you're going to press the soaps out of the mold and let them cure for about a month at least before they're ready to go. I recommend letting it cure for even 2 or 3 months, because the longer you let your soaps cure, the longer they're going to last when you go to use them, because they're going to get harder, and thus they just last a longer period of time. And then, as I said, any little soap flakes, like you can see some pieces here, these will break off and they'll just put them in my jar with my other soap pieces. And I will show you some completed soaps. And these ones are cured and they're ready for me to wrap. I just haven't got that far yet. But this one is a orange clove. It was supposed to be orange clove calendula, but I forgot to add the calendula because I always try to make sure I get something from my garden. But in this, I did use actually organic dehydrated orange peel that I dehydrated myself, and some ground cloves, as well as the Now Foods essential oils. This one is pansies from my garden, plus geranium, Now Foods geranium oil, and oatmeal. And then this one is orange vanilla oatmeal. So orange peel and calendula. So orange, calendula, oatmeal soap. And I always try to make sure I get at least one herb from my garden. So this one is a failure in the fact that I didn't get one herb from my garden, but it's still a great soap. Orange clove, love it. So there's just a few different ideas of blends you can do. I've also used lime peel and lime essential oil, and then vanilla essential oil, and then added those together to make like a key lime pie kind of thing. And usually I'll throw in maybe dandelion flowers into that one, or some other one that will have a nice color that will look good with that. Now what I found, if you're looking for color, calendula holds its colors best. Some pansies will hold their color decently, but just expect once you add certain things to your soap, the lye is going to change the color of it. Often it will turn it brown. So, but calendula and dandelion flowers, those ones work really good, and some of the pansies do. So I usually put a blend of all different colors of pansies when I do that. So as you can see here, they all kind of turned a little bit brown, but sometimes you can see there's a few different, some of the colors aren't exactly the same. Like there's a little bit of green and all that in there. So anyway, so when you go to make your herbal soap, just get creative and add whatever you want. You obviously don't want to go overboard and to put too much of herbs and stuff in there, or then you end up with just a bar of just herbs and that's all you're washing with. But what I have found is having the herbs in the soap, not only are the herbs good for your skin, but it also gives it just a nice exfoliating factor and feels kind of scrubby and good on your skin if you're using the bar directly on your skin or on your face. So anyway, there you have it. So there's my latest soap creation, and I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.